In this video, I'm trying not to freeze my ass off while I show you how to make a checkerboard cake topper. Why is it so cold? Hi, it's Karolyn. Like I said before, I am going to show you in this video how I make a checkerboard pattern number cake topper for your cakes. I live just outside of Philly. I don't know why it's so freezing right now. It was just like 80 degrees for Halloween, and now it's the middle of November and it's 20 degrees, and I just haven't had any time to prepare. I wasn't prepared. Who watches Friends? Rachel? No? Anyone get that? Okay, well, whatever. If you want to see how I make this checkerboard cake topper for your cakes, then just keep on watching. Okay, so I am going to put this checkerboard pattern on a red background. So what I did, it's black and white checkerboard. I rolled out fondant. As always, I mix my fondant with a little bit of Tylose powder. The Tylose powder helps the fondant to set a little harder, so it's easier to work with, kind of like gum paste. So I rolled out white and black fondant really thin, probably about 1/8 of an inch thick. There's the white and the black. And I let it sit for about 20 minutes before I start working with it to give it time to stiffen. I also rolled out some red fondant, which is probably about 3/4 of an inch to an inch thick. And I rolled it out with some fondant, and I'm setting that aside so it can stiffen a little bit as well. Other tools you're gonna need is an Xoxo knife, this Dresden tool, which is one of my favorite tools. I got this in a set, but I can link a tool, a similar tool below. It just won't have the same look to it. And this PME cutter, I love it. It's a square cutter, and it shoots out what is it called? Like a plunger cutter, and it just shoots the pieces out, so it's easy to work with. And also a paintbrush and a little bit of water. I have my cutting board, and as always, I fold up paper towels and I wet them, and I just leave it here on the corner so I can periodically wipe off my Xoxo knife because the fondant starts to stick to it. So to start, I'm going to take this white piece of fondant and I'm going to trace this number 7 on here just so I know where the squares have to go. So whatever number it's going to be, you just want to get a rough outline, pressing a little hard so it can transfer onto the fondant underneath. Take that off. So now I see this number 7 on this white fondant. I know where I need to put the black and white checkered squares. I'm going to take a piece of fondant, and what you want to do, just press down, and I twist a little bit to cut through the fondant, and then I wipe it off underneath to get the little crumbs off, if you will, and then just press the top piece and the square pops out. So I'm going to make a bunch of different squares. So just cutting it out and pressing the squares down onto the board. And to save time, I pre-cut all the squares that I'm going to need. So you're just going to want to cut out a bunch of different black and white squares, set them aside, and we will continue. So now I'm gonna take this piece of white fondant that I already lightly traced that number 7 on. I'm gonna start to put the squares on top of here. So taking the water and a paintbrush, I'm going to wet this whole number 7. You have to find a happy medium. You don't want to use too much water and make it soaking wet, but it's got to be enough so that the squares are all going to stick on it. There we go. I covered the whole thing. And now I'm just going to alternate squares, black and white, until I cover the whole number 7. So as I'm putting them down, you want to make sure that they are as straight as possible. And I like this end of this paintbrush because it's flat, so I can kind of use it as a tool to make sure everything is in line. Just make sure each square is pressed against the other square so there's no gaps in the pattern. At the second row, if it starts with white, underneath it you want to have a black square so it can look like a checkerboard pattern. So keep alternating black and white until you cover the whole thing. You want to make sure since the water is pretty sticky and not forgiving, that the squares are in place before you press them all the way down. Now I'm going to put this number 7 on top, and I want to make sure that it is as straight as possible, because if I put it on an angle, the pattern will be off. So I want to try to have it straight up and down. I just want to make sure that it's covered on the whole thing and that it is perfectly straight up and down. Excuse my big head. So laying it on top, I will feel to make sure that it's not off of the pattern. Okay, and just trace the number 7 onto the checkerboard pattern. We'll peel that off. And it's a little difficult to see, but there is a line, an outline of the number 7 going around here that now I can use my X-Acto knife and use that line as a guide. I'm going to periodically wipe this off here, and I'm going to just cut the number 7 out. What I like to do is just lightly press down. I'm not cutting the whole way through first. I'm just following that line. And I want to press down and not drag it, because if I start dragging the knife before it's all cut, I could start to distort the pattern. So I'm just pressing, I'm pressing the knife down so I can cut out the whole number. Now that I have the outline and it's pressed in, I can cut it all out. I also should mention, if you are cutting out a number 8 or a 4 or a 6 or a 9 or a 0, you want to cut out the center parts before you cut out the outside part. So, you know, a 0 has a center circle and then the outside circle. Cut out the center pieces first and then cut out the big piece. It's much easier to work with that way. So, like always, after I cut something out, I just pick it up and take my finger and run it over the edge just to smooth out any jagged edges that may have occurred from the X-Acto knife. Now, I'm going to grab my fondant, my red fondant, and I just have it sitting on this other little board because it's easier to move it around. So I'm going to place the number on top of the other piece of fondant, making sure that it is straight up and down. If I put it like that, now the pattern is messed up. So you want to make sure that the lines are horizontal and vertical. Okay, now I want to take my paintbrush, a little bit of water, and I'm going to try to keep this number as straight as possible. Just lift it up underneath and try to wet the number with the water, and then lightly press it back down, trying to make sure that the pattern stays in a straight line. So I'm taking the brush and I'm wiping up, so I'm getting underneath the 7 wet rather than painting on the red, because if I just paint the red, I could go outside of the lines and get wet where it's not supposed to be wet. So lifting it up, and now I'm painting this white part underneath. Making sure that you paint the edges, because the edges are the most important part, because you don't want the edges to lift up. Also making sure you don't have too much water on your paintbrush, because you don't want the water to seep out underneath. So you just want enough to get it wet so it'll stick to the piece, to the red piece. What I want to do is cut out a border around this number 7. So I don't want to cut exactly against the 7. I want to be able to see a little bit of red the whole way around. Now you have to use your eye for this to try to make sure that you have an even border the whole way around. I'm going to do what I did before. To start, I'm just going to lightly press this into the fondant to get the border, and then I can cut it out. Excuse my head if it gets in the way. And now that I have the line cut, I'm going to cut the whole thing out. I want to try to make sure I'm keeping my X-Acto knife straight up and down. I don't want to cut in on an angle. Just cut it straight up and down. So stick it all the way down and then just pull it through. Just following the line that you made. Okay, now I have the number cut out, and now I want to refine the edges. So I'm going to flip this over. It's just a little jagged around the edges. So I'm going to take my fingers and smooth the edges out. Because you want the back of the number to be clean as well as the front. Now, this little corner in here is a little messed up. It might be a little difficult to see, but that's where your Dresden tool or other tools come in handy. So I'm just going to take it and just try to smooth out the jagged edges and any pieces of fondant that may be sticking up from cutting it out. Flipping it over and then doing the same thing. And then for the final part, I'm going to take this bamboo skewer. I wet it. What was that? I wet it so it'll stick to the fondant. Okay, this is a better angle. So what I'm going to do, I want to stick the skewer in the number 7 so it could stick on top of the birthday cake. You have to make sure that the skewer stays in the center. It doesn't pop up or pop down and cut it so it won't show through wait, what am I trying to say? You want to make sure that it goes in straight, basically. So from here, I'm going to stick it in the center. I don't want it to show on this side, so you have to make sure that it's going to be all covered by fondant. And I'm going in, and what I'm doing, I'm twisting. Twist, twist, twist. Little twists to start to push this in the cake. So I'm twisting and pushing it in, right? I'm not just jamming it in there because it's going to distort the number. So I'm going to hold it down here, twist, twist, twist and push. And then periodically, I'm holding it up here to make sure it's not coming out the top. Periodically, I will flip the number over, make sure it's not showing through the bottom. Twist and push, twist and push, twist and push, and then flip it over. Twist and push, twist and push, twist and push. I'm going to set this aside for a couple days so it can dry really hard, and then I will put it on top of the cake. So here you go. Here is your little cute checkerboard number cake topper. I actually made this yesterday. I'm just filming the intro and the outro today, if you will. I like to make these about at least 2 or 3 days in advance so it has time to dry. What I like to do, I dried it like this with the checkerboard pattern face up last night, and tonight when I dry it, I will turn it over so the other side has time to get, can be exposed to the air so it can stiffen up a little more and just dry really hard. And then when you're ready to use it, you can just stick it in the top of the cake. I don't know if you can hear this, but my refrigerator is making this noise and it's just going like Chandler when he said about Ross's air conditioner. It like won't stop. Huh. There you go, just had to kick it. Sometimes that just works. So annoying. Anyway, I can't think of anything else to say about this. If you have any questions, leave them below and I will get back to you as soon as I can. And like always, please like this video. Oh my God, my throat's dry, I need a little water. Please like this video if you liked it. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already and you want to see more videos like this. Man, that would have really worked. Ooh, I'm all lubricated. Okay. And please, you can follow me on social media. I am on Facebook and Instagram, and I have my website. I will link all of that below. And I think that's it. That's all I say. That's my little spiel. So I will see you on the next video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye. Bye. What is wrong with me? But seriously, thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.